Hello, everybody. Your Natural Dog with Angela Ardolino, and my guest today is Dr. Adam Christman. I found him on TikTok, believe it or not, and there's a lot of vets on TikTok, but gosh, I just love this dude. He is another one of those integrative veterinarians who's been in practice for over 18 years now, and literally is all about empowering the pet parent. And you can do virtual with him. So if you're looking for an integrative vet, he is awesome. He loves to be able to help and figure things out. We're going to have a wonderful conversation about fat dogs, obesity in dogs. What are the dangers? What can we do? Why does it happen? And how we can still feed our dogs as much as we want, but that they're during certain times, it's certain food. And then if you do have an obese dog, what we can do to help them. So stay tuned. It's a great conversation with Dr. Adam Christman that you're really going to enjoy.
Introducing Myco Dog, a line of mushroom extracts combined with adaptogens like ashwagandha, astragalus root, and Bacopa monnieri, made specifically for dogs. The mushrooms in our tinctures are grown in the wild in the Pacific Northwest and are triple extracted from the fruiting bodies of the mushrooms. These tinctures are meant to support dogs with dementia and canine cognitive disorder, breathing and respiratory issues, and autoimmune diseases and even cancer. Click on the link below to learn more about how Myco Dog can help your dog live their very best life naturally.
And we're back with Your Natural Dog with Angela Ardolino, and I've got my favorite TikTok vet in the house.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if you know this. I've had you on before, like 2 years ago. But you weren't a TikTok star then. And now you are. So it's really funny because I'm obsessed with you on TikTok. You're my favorite vet on there. Not only do you give us fun information, but you give us some really vital information that's helpful. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for binge watching and enjoying the content.
You bet. I'm always on your lives, and of course, yeah. I'm one of those silly people that get excited when you go, "Good question, Angela." And I'm like, yes, he saw my question. So thank you, Dr. Adam Christman, for being with us today. I'd love to know how you ended up getting to this point where you saw TikTok. I'm a woman of a certain age. I can't believe how much I love TikTok. I literally do not go on Facebook or Instagram anymore because TikTok I feel like I'm learning all the time. Yes. It's a little bit more positive.
Yes.
Well, how did you end up becoming the TikTok vet?
I know, and I agree because I felt like Facebook was great to stay connected to your friends and sending thoughts and thinking of you when things happen. Instagram is showing awesome food and of course dogs and cats and animals, but then TikTok is where the party's at.
It is.
It's where the party's at. So the music's awesome. The vibe is cool. The community connections. And I felt like I can go to vet school just by going to TikTok. I felt like, so, yeah. And I was always big about learning and laughing at the same time. And this just really, for me, at least for my audience, it just seemed to be my sweet spot. And I wanted to seize that as an opportunity to really educate, pet parents and colleagues around the world, because as we know, we're just so busy in the veterinary space. And so if we can put some pet parents' mind at ease, even when it's either through a video or through my daily live streams where I try to answer questions, I really feel that's a win. And I learned so much from other pet parents. And that's what I really, really want to get across with everybody on my channel, is that it's a community. It's not just me lecturing and giving information. It's what I've learned and what I've gathered when, I've learned about these hacks. And I was like, well, I'm going to share them with you. So, and also when people chime in on the live stream, I'm always learning from pet parents. So it's just a fascinating community and I love it so much.
Well, my listeners know that my favorite thing about a veterinarian is when they continue to learn, continue to be empowered by what they learn, and then sharing with pet parents, because I think that we do have a new pet parent, which is the educated one, the one that's going to seek out people like you who is going to teach us to do things better.
100%. 100%. And I say that to the new veterinary graduates that are out there too. And I say, you're just beginning your journey, of course, and always learn and always be open to what pet parents have to offer. There's a new concept that we're learning in veterinary medicine, and it's called a listening to pet parents perspective. And so, in other words, instead of me saying, Angela, we're going to do blood work on your dog, I would say, Angela, what are your thoughts about running some blood work on your dog? And that gets your buy-in, that gets your team effort, because at the end of the day, you're the one signing the check over to do, treatment. So I want you to make sure that you're aligned. And when you come to me and say, hey, Dr. Christman, I read this on the internet, versus the veterinarian go, oh God, here we go. No, tell me what you've learned. I really want to be open to these things about integrative modalities, natural modalities, different types of way we're feeding our animals. Because listen, the science, the data, it's there, and I'm not going to know it all. So I really rely on my pet parents to help educate us together.
Well, we appreciate that very much, and that's why I have you on the show. I know that we were talking about one of our favorite things that you do on TikTok is that you talk about the favorite breeds that that are out there and the statistics. I know what your favorite breed is. You can move your head and see behind you what your favorite breed is. Those are your babies. They're all Dachshund dogs, and I know we were going to talk about obesity.
Of course.
And I'm glad that you have these dogs, because these are one of the dogs that we see the most along with pugs and the other little short, stocky dogs, having major weight problems. And I want to discuss why it's such a bigger deal on them than a bigger dog, because of IVDD.
Absolutely.
Which I think even educating pet parents before or I get a dog, and the fact that I now can get a certain dog, let's say I get a Cavalier, or I get a French Bulldog, or I get a Dachshund, I now can go out and find what those dogs may be more prone to as far as disease and problems, right?
Exactly.
That information's out there now. So we now can get a dog like a Dachshund and go, what do I need to do to prevent this from happening?
Right. And that's where the research is everyone's learning as we go. And I can't stress the importance of DNA testing as well, because it's so important. So if you have a rescue, I said, let's DNA. And I mean, you're curious to see what they might be mixed with, of course, but then also to our point, what are some predispositions that we need to be more proactive of, i.e. invest in pet insurance too? Because if we know that we might have part dachshund, maybe we have IVDD. If we know we're going to have Labrador Retriever on board, maybe we got hips and some obesity issues. So I think it's a really great way to be more proactive than reactive, especially when it comes to obesity. And, the statistic has not changed. And since 2019, so this is pre-COVID, 56% of dogs and 51% of cats are obese. Wow. That's more than half.
Wow.
So, and what does that mean? Well, I mean, it's not one of those conversations where we say, oh, it's just about diet and exercise. We know now that the research shows, just like on the human side, some people are more prone to being overweight or obese, and the same goes for our animals. So when they walk into our clinics, we can't just be like, oh, that's totally an owner's failing. No, it's not. It's not. And you hear the frustration, I see it on their eyes that like, Dr. Christman, I'm trying really hard. I've cut back. They're still starving. What can we do? And so I really talk about like a whole program that needs to go into place, and I always say, we want to set you up for sex. Yes.
Love it.
Because like, I don't want them walking out the door to be like, oh my God, he yelled at me and there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And, we have to recognize that it's difficult, but the silver lining to this is that it's 100% reversible. And there's not many things in veterinary medicine that we can say that to. Diabetes, we can manage. Maybe we can, get our cats regulated 100%. Cushing's disease, certain cancers, certain things we can manage and do the best we can. But to reverse something, and we know that there's so many things that obesity can lead to, heart disease and joint disease, and the list goes on. So I'm all in. And so that's why, like, I always get on my soapbox about this, because we want to keep them as lean as possible. And to our point, we're just talking about dachshunds with intervertebral disc disease. They can really blow out a disc because of that weight. And I swear, I feel like dachshunds, as you can tell, I'm a huge dachshaholic, right? And I feel like they need another pair of legs right in the middle here. Just
they do.
Night, right?
Well, explain to the listener why these little dogs have more issues if they were to put weight on. I remember one of the best things that I ever heard was it was two parts. Their nails being too long and the weight. I don't know if you know. I have shops. I have boarding, grooming stores, shops. So we see a lot of dogs. So I literally will see 70 dogs in one day. That's how busy we are.
Holy smokes.
And I got to see that I would say 85% of the dogs coming through that shop are suffering from something. And the majority of them are suffering from being overweight. And I cannot remember who put this in my mind, but they were like, imagine a pug or a Dachshund that is 10 pounds overweight. That's like us being 100 pounds overweight. And then their nails aren't trimmed. So they're literally walking in high heels with an extra 100 pounds on them. Because what I have learned, now that I've been in the pet industry and had my rescue farm for 15 years now, what I feel like I've learned, the biggest lesson is that everything that we suffer from as humans, dogs suffer from also.
Right.
And the same kind of thing applies to how we fix the issues in our health is the same way how we fix our issues in our dog's health. But I love that you're being proactive because I have a Doberman that was diagnosed with osteosarcoma at age 8, given 4 to 6 months to live. And what did I learn after the fact? That 1 in 4 dogs, large breed dogs, is going to get this bone cancer. So I immediately go, what can I do to help prevent that from ever happening? So I love that you're doing that. One of the biggest things that I did was when I switched my dog's foods. So I have a lot of dogs. I have a rescue. And I always tell everybody it was a literal shit show because, I changed everyone's food.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just made the decision, changed it. That was the quickest way for me to get weight off. Was going from a kibble diet to a more fresh or raw feed, even if you're doing a little bit of both.
Right.
How does kibble contribute? The food that they're buying on the shelf contribute to it, because I feel like they run out and they buy a diet or a weight management food and don't understand why that's not enough.
Right. And it's not. And when you read these, and here in the United States, the AFCO labeled standards for it, it'll say that it's, ideally it's for intact sporting, active dogs. And most of our animals are either altered and not living a life where they're doing these running shows and so forth. So what's on the bag that you're reading is definitely higher than what would be recommended. And in fact, most veterinarians recommend a 50% reduction of what they're seeing on the food in general. And then when you look at the weight management diets, these OTC kinds of diets, it's literally going to try to do that. Just manage the weight. Manage weight. They're not going to necessarily lose the weight. It's just going to maybe stay at an overweight weight of 45 pounds, let's just say. So that's where like therapeutic diets may come into play, where a veterinarian may require, prescription, or you work with a nutritionist, whether it be raw food diets or home cooked diets, to figure out ways to increase the fiber, a little bit of the protein, decrease a little bit on the fats and the carbs, and just to make something that's more balanced and complete, so that way they can get some of that weight off of them. And the big thing too, Angela, is I always feel like that regardless of what kind of food you feed them, they want to feel full. And so when dogs and cats feel full, we feel happy, right? Because food is love, no matter what culture and what world you live in, I'm telling you. And so if we can find that nice happy medium, and I find that whether it be the raw foods or the home cooks or some of the therapeutic diets that are out there, if they feel that they feel that satiety feeling, then I feel that that's a home run, because the owners are not going to do too much of this and that in terms of treats. So that's part one. The other thing that I want to say too really quickly is that there's some really great interactive puzzle toys and scented toys that are out there that are 0 calories. And so changing your mindset and our behavior, as how our animals listen. My 4 weans, they go down that ramp, come back in just so they know they can get a cookie. And so, like they do it just so that way. But if we change the mindset, there's great toys out there that have scent technology that smell like beef and chicken. So they still have that fix on, but they're also working maybe in a puzzle or whatnot too, where you could put some really cool vegetables in there, make it fun and interactive, but they're also burning some calories at the same time. That's another great modality that
I don't think people realize that that's exercise, both mentally and physically. You give, I know not all dogs can tolerate a raw bone, but a raw bone or a beef trachea or something like that is going to wear, like when I give my big dogs these and come back, they're panting because they have been working at that thing the whole entire time. So that's mental and physical stimulation, which I don't think people understand. I also want people to realize that, you know, I give treats all day. I mean, I only feed my dogs in the morning and treats throughout the day. I feed them in an 8-hour period and fast them in a 16-hour period. I also fast them 1 day a week where I only give them bone broth or goat's milk. That's how severe I am. But I know everybody can't do those types of things. By the way,
I love that you're mentioning this. This is fantastic. And
trust me, on that day that I fast them, they look at me like I am torturing them because dogs are creatures of habit. So if every morning we run into our crate to get our bowl of food and today we're just getting some soup, I get it. But I want people to understand is that if you're going to a grocery store, or even a pet food store, the treats and the dog food aren't always the best options that you can get from that store. So even just the treats that you're feeding them, it should be 1 or 2 ingredients. That's it. None of these cookies, all these other things. So I can give my dogs treats all day long, but they are freeze-dried liver, freeze-dried hearts, what I just said, a beef trachea, a piece of skin or something like that. So I feel like that we have made it overcomplicated and or simple that we just think we pour it in a bowl and that bowl of food sits there every day. Right. I remember that. I remember when my dog's food would sit there all day long. We called it free feeding. That means your dog doesn't like its food.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many other options that are out there too. There's now rotational feeding is another option.
Ooh, what's that?
So you can give a specific type of protein and a carbohydrate for X amount of days. So let's say you do it for 1 week, and then you switch out that carbohydrate and protein for another week. And the reason behind that too, there's a lot of thought about the microbiome, the gut. And so, replenishing the gut is going to replenish everything. I think of the biome as like your nucleus, your core to everything in life. And so immune system, integument, skin, GI, all that stuff. And so if we're really feeding that gut in a healthy way by maybe rotating out some of those important carbohydrates and proteins appropriately, you can have a really healthy, long, living dog and cat. So, and then also if you do it right in terms of trying to get that weight under control as well. So,
have you ever, in your experience as a vet, have you ever seen an obese dog that was on a raw or fresh diet?
I have, it's not that often, I'll tell you that, but I have seen them, and it's either because, if they're not doing
low activity.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. So it boils down to what I call spectrum of care. So if you're a senior client, pet parent, and you're doing raw food, but you're not doing the exercise component, there's a miss. You know what I mean? So it depends on the type. If you're a college student, you're so busy in school and you're not able to exercise them, but you're doing raw food, there's a little bit of a miss that's there too. And then if you're not balancing and completing it appropriately, there might be that opportunity. But, that's like with any foods that are out there, I would say. But I don't see it, I don't know, I don't see it as common, because I feel like when you're doing those kinds of food, you're measuring appropriately. You know exactly what's going in their tummies or whatever. So there's a thought about that. But
because I actually, when can't remember if I finished this thought, but when I switched all my dogs over to raw, I had trouble keeping weight on some of my very active dogs. So that was interesting of how I had to figure out how to get more weight on them. One of them still that way is still the Doberman. The Doberman is still alive, by the way, 26 months later.
Oh my gosh.
I'm pretty sure we've broken all records. We amputated her leg at 22 months. So she had the tumor leg until then. and she's still alive, and we feed her a very strict ketogenic diet. So she gets no carbs whatsoever. And the best part is that we did it all holistically. So we only used hemp, cannabis, both hemp and marijuana,
Right.
all the medicinal mushrooms you can imagine that have anti-cancer, anti-tumor properties. And she's still with us.
That's phenomenal.
And every time we would go and see, was there spread? So we still had no metastasis. I do think I might have metastasis now, which there is that. I don't know if you've ever heard, you get rid of the main tumor and the cancer wants to go somewhere else, because all of a sudden she is now, let's see, we amputated March 16th. So we're 3 months from the amputation.
Mm-hmm.
But I know food is medicine.
Yes.
Food, like what you said about the microbiome, that's where the immune system lives. And I don't think if I was doing something else with the diet and still doing all these holistic modalities, I would not have the success that I am having with her. So I want people to understand that. We have to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about maybe how do you detox or cleanse? How do you transition if you are interested in switching foods? How you do that when we come back.
Sounds good.
This is Daisy. She's our 17-year-old rescue, and her owner surrendered her to the veterinarian because she couldn't walk anymore. And the vet gave us a call, and we rescued her, brought her to our rescue farm here. We took her off all of her prescription medications. She was having seizures every day, grand mal seizures. She had no hair on her feet, on her tail. And we have her on a CBD regimen, and she has come back to life. She's become puppy-like. She runs around and plays, and she could live to be 20 years old and live a very long, happy, pain-free life.
CBD Dog Health, healing naturally.
And we're back with Dr. Adam Christman, and we're talking about fat dogs. Fat dogs, and I think the best part about having an obese dog is like what you said. We can reverse this. It's not something that we can't do ourselves. It just, I think that the biggest tip is what we would do for us is what we would do for our dogs.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
What would be the first step? Like, even if they're considering, I am feeding the kibble I'm getting off the shelf, maybe that's my biggest problem, or I am doing a weight management and that's my biggest problem. What are some other things that they can do to transition or help food-wise? And then we'll go into more exercise and maybe cleanse. I know a cleanse, every time someone switches to a raw diet, I always tell them there's going to be a cleansing situation that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I even take it one step back further because I want to make sure that my pet parents are aligned with me to know that and recognize that their dog or cat is overweight and obese. And there's a difference, obesity is 20% over what their recommended weight is. And so I do a body condition score, and I usually have something in the exam room where I send them some information. And it's subjective because I use 1 through 5. I know others could do 1 through 9, but 3 is ideal, 4 is overweight, and 5 is obese. And I said, I want you to look at what I'm seeing. I need you to see, because I need your buy-in is really what it is. I don't want them to walk up like, this guy's lying, like this, there's no way. So I want you to see how there's no abdominal tuck and you can't see
Which
this
I
weight.
think people think that abdominal tuck means they're too skinny.
All the time. It makes me want to clench my pearls. I'm telling you, because it's like, I hear it all the time too. Oh my gosh, but your dog is so thin. Is something wrong? No.
Yep. Hear it all the time.
Right. Yeah. So making sure that we recognize that and then putting a plan in place like we talked about. And it's usually like, I treat it as if like I'm treating no other condition or skin or endocrine disease. Like, we have a treatment plan. I want to recheck and I want to celebrate the wins. It's so important. Like if a Chihuahua lost 3 ounces in a week, we're going to parade that dog around the hospital and celebrate.
I love it.
We need them to feel that emotion and even post about it too on our social media. Like, oh my gosh, look who just lost. Paco just lost 3 ounces.
I love it.
So that's important. And then, so diet is a big thing, of course. We talk about feeding regimens. Sometimes we even delve into simple things like, I didn't even know my significant other was feeding him at the same time. Like, I thought I did it before I left for work, but then he was doing it. So, like, making sure that you just set the expectation and clear and open-ended questions. Tell me what you're feeding here. And then, this is the key, everyone, especially my veterinarians out there. You just use 2 words. What else? Because what that means is, and you just insert a pause, because they'll be like, oh yeah, we do go through the drive-thru at Starbucks once a week for puppuccino. Like it does like open things up a little bit more without anybody like, yelling or, but when a pet parent says it out loud, they realize, oh shoot, yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, they do get we go through drive-thru at McDonald's and they do get like a burger, so anything else, okay. And this is what we're going to do moving forward, And so I set them up with a coach, which is one of our vet techs, who's there and to have a voice of reason. And so even if it's somebody that we do virtual care, and I love virtual care. Anybody, please, if I can shout that from the rooftops, I'm a huge fan of telemedicine.
So am I. I didn't know that we could get virtual care with you. That is amazing. And I love that you called the vet tech a coach. That is amazing.
Yes, because teamwork makes that's what you're supposed to say, dream work. That's okay.
Dream work.
But yeah, because it's all about teamwork. But yeah, telemedicine is good because you know what? I can peel back the curtain and I could say, show me where you keep the food. And I'm like, oh, see, that's not the food that we talked about. Show me what you're cooking up, what you're making in the kitchen so I can see what your meal preps are looking like for your dog or cat. Show me the stairs. Like, are we having a hard time going up and down those stairs? Where's the litter box? Does it have too big of a lip where they really are struggling to go in? And I love what you were just talking about, Angela, about, the different types of food that we're feeding, because we're all about, and I hope my colleagues agree with me, but I'm all about integrative approaches all the way. So holistic, homeopathy, same thing. It's no different the way we treat pain.
Right.
I wouldn't just send home a dog that's going to be on a medication. I'm going to do laser therapy, acupuncture, shockwave therapy, herbs. We're going to throw it all at them. And so that's how we need to work up all of these. And same thing for obesity. So there's great things that are out there like herbs and homeopathy remedies that can absolutely curb their appetite a little bit more and make them feel full. So there's in 2022, there's so many great things now that we talk about. We talk about medicinal mushrooms, by the way, as a way of helping with obesity, because some of these dogs are living in an inflamed state because the adipocytes can also cause pro-inflammatory mediators. So what do? Well, we look at some different types of medical mushrooms that can be helpful. We look about the CBD, and the CBG is another big one that I like as well. And they're terpenes. So there's like a lot of great things in the endocannabinoid system that we can use as a great arsenal for the treatment of obesity.
I know. I love that you mentioned that. As you know, I'm a cannabis expert, so I love the endocannabinoid system and how, vets aren't taught about the endocannabinoid system. So anytime I get one that can spit it out and knows how it helps in the situation, why not? That's how I feel too. And then remember that mushrooms, along with cannabis and some of these herbs, all belong to a group of plants and mushrooms called adaptogens. So when you do add more than one together, they become even more powerful and synergistic, which is literally my 3 things to keeping my Doberman alive was diet, mushrooms, and cannabis. So it's very important to take an integrative approach anytime because, if you're going to a conventional veterinarian that hasn't continued their education and they're just operating off of what they learned at school, they're operating with a very small platform to treat your pet. So even which we love to do this, and I love that you do telehealth, because even if you live somewhere where you can't get to a integrative vet, that you can still go get your blood work, your x-rays, everything, and then get on with someone like you who will be able to do everything. And thank you for doing that, because
you're welcome.
Us pet parents, we are not settling for less. I will go. I used to. I mean, I've been to so many vets before I could find one that I could talk to, and my vet is in Pennsylvania and I'm in Florida. So that is very common. And I'm so grateful for all of you that do this for us.
Right. We talk a lot about food energy. We know the importance of what food is. Like you were just saying, it's just the foundation of everything. So, and we don't get a lot of it in veterinary school because we have so much to go through and jam through on large and small animals. So we talk about food energy. We talk about the integrative approach. Now I'm learning more because I'm always sitting in continuing education and learning more. I'm learning about the entourage effect, that the 1+1 model really does work, like you're talking about with the endocannabinoid system and throwing other things in play. And just going there, because listen, I wish, if I could shout this from the rooftops too, we know that there's more great effects than side effects.
Exactly.
So, right. So why not try it? Why not?
Well, the side effects are all good.
Yes, they are the good things too. And so, and again, I know we're talking about the obese dog and cat here, because think about all those things, like they're just living in that inflamed state. So if we can do these other modalities while we're getting the weight off of them, and then we can take them off of certain, herbs and remedies, of course. But it's going to help in the long run. So that way, obviously, at the end of the day, we want our animals to live longer, and that's what it's all about.
It is. And I think that the more holistic and integrative approach you can make, the more success you're going to have with whatever you're dealing with. But yes, you're right. If your dog is obese, your dog is in an inflamed state, and inflammation is the basis of all disease. So you're basically setting them up for getting a disease. And if you can get that weight under managed and get them real fresh food, you're going to be able to really accomplish some incredible things. What sent me on my journey is I lost my first dog at 7 years old, did everything that my convention did, got an autopsy, and all they could find was irritable bowel. But guess what? I was doing everything wrong. So I now look at she was a miniature Schnauzer. My sole dog now, Odie, my miniature Schnauzer, is about to turn 16. And I literally doubled his lifespan because of what I knew and what I learned. Right. So I think educating a pet parent, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing that. How do our listeners get in touch with you if they do want to get a virtual with you? And if you want to find him, he's on TikTok. He's on DVM 360, which is a vet site, but I go to all the time to learn what you guys are talking about and what the next new thing is.
Absolutely. And I really want to stress that really important. Since COVID, we've had a massive uptake of pet parents coming to our site, which we love, and we're welcome them. They are welcome to the supper table at any of our webinars. You're all welcome to learn. Please take advantage of it. It's free. And if you can't make it, of course, you'll get a recording that'll be emailed to you. But I'm telling you, I like that you mentioned that, because please visit dvm360.com. We have so much great content that's there. Some of it might be higher level that I don't understand what they're talking about. But there's really good stuff that you get a pulse on the profession, what culture is like, what are some of the pain points that are happening in veterinary medicine that you'll probably have more empathy with your veterinarian, understanding some of the struggles that the profession's going through every now and then. So, and I have a podcast too, the Vet Blast podcast. I use my chest voice there.
I love it.
And then, of course, on TikTok, Dr. Adam Christman 52. And then my website's getting revamped. So it's a brand new one where we're going to have all those different areas where we can do consults. But dradamchrisman.com. So dradamchrisman.com is where it's at.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. You gave us valuable information, and I know you're going to get a lot of listeners calling you up or following you because you give wonderful information. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My honor. Thank you.
You bet.